Welcome to TRS Clips, the channel that we hope is like a brain workout for you. The larger context here is, in pop culture, DMT is spoken about a lot on the Joe Rogan Experience. And he constantly says that with a lot of people who do ayahuasca or who do DMT in that smoked form, they go to another realm, meet entities, sometimes visit cities. And there are also reports where I think there's something called drip DMT, where it's administered through what's it called, an IV?
Yeah.
And they are able to sustain their DMT trips for long. And it's been found, apparently, that different patients go and visit the same DMT city or the same DMT realm.
So let's talk about, there's a lot to talk about here, okay? So number one is let's talk about research. So I think it was DMT. One study on 36 patients, so small sample size, found that 92% of people who use DMT encounter otherworldly beings.
Yes.
Okay, so I've got a creepy story for you. Okay, so I once had a patient. Patient started using drugs at the age of 11, had something called polysubstance abuse, which means that they're not addicted to one thing, right? Sometimes we get addicted because we have a certain genetics and our certain transmitter. We're vulnerable. I can't stop with one drink. This guy could get addicted to anything. So it's a different kind of neurochemistry. So he started using drugs at the age of 11, came to my office around 27. So he'd been addicted to stuff for 16 years, had tried all kinds of treatment. So he comes to me and he says, Doc, and he wants to try the spirituality stuff, right? Because nothing else has really worked. So he says, Doc, I want to go do Ibogaine, not DMT, but so he's going to go to a different country, Costa Rica, and he's going to use Ibogaine treatment. Ibogaine helps people get off of opiates especially, so it has some opioid activity.
Is it like a mushroom?
I don't know what it's derived from, but it's like it has hallucinogenic compound. It's a hallucinogenic compound that also has some opioid effects. People use it specifically for opioid detox, and it helps them understand spiritual things, which helps. Yeah. So he goes and does Ibogaine treatment, and I'm kind of scared. So he's going to go do this because it's illegal in the U.S. We don't know how safe it is. He wants to do it. It's his choice. He's going to come back and is going to be with me at a drug rehab for 30 days after he's done. So he says, I want to go here for 1 week. Then I want to come back to you and I want to do 30 days of rehab treatment. I said, okay, whatever. So he goes there and I talked to him a couple days in and he says, I had this great experience. I had this vision of myself with all these leeches on me. And the leeches are the addiction, and the leeches were falling off of me, and the addiction is getting out of my body. And I got scared because I was like, this guy's going to skip treatment now. He's not going to come. And I said, so are you still planning on coming? He says, oh yeah, I realize that the leeches is the spiritual addiction. I still need to do the biological work. I need to do the neuroscience work. Those parts of me have not been healed, but this part of me has been healed. And I was like, okay, cool. So he comes and we're talking more about it, and I ask him, because I'm curious, right? I was like, what happened? What did you see? And so he tells me that while I was going through this stuff, it felt painful. It doesn't feel good. But he says there was an entity there. And I said, who are you? And the entity was helping him, was supporting him, was sending him positive energy. And he says, and he felt very secure. The leeching was very painful, but this thing was there. And he says, who are you? And he says, I'm Thomas. And he's like, who are you? And he says, I'm your brother. And so comes back, but he's an only child. So then he's like, tells me about this, and I'm like, okay, so maybe, like, who knows, right? So whatever, it's like some weird trip. So about a year later, I'm talking to his mom. So his mom came to my office for a different reason. And so I kind of mentioned and he gives me permission to share this story publicly and things like that. So I'm talking to his mom, and I tell him about this, which he had never told her. And then she like goes white as a sheet. And I'm like, what is it? And she says, so before she had him, 10 years before she had him, she was pregnant and had a miscarriage. Buried the child, named him Thomas, and it was a boy. I'm not kidding at all. Swear to God. Okay? So like, once again,
Goosebumps.
We have a couple of options. One is that maybe he's 3 years old. Maybe, his mom is crying because he's healthy or he's sick. Maybe he's sick. Mom is crying. Oh my God, like, I don't want to lose you like I lost Thomas. Who knows, right? So there's very, very non-spiritual soul incarnation kind of explanations. Very simple psychological. Those are a possibility. We have to acknowledge it. That's not proof of anything. But here's the crazy thing. 92% of people who use DMT, now we're talking about a different drug, will encounter otherworldly beings. So this is like a telescope, right? So like if I look through a telescope and I see this rings of Saturn, and I point up at a twinkling star and I tell other human beings, there's rings, that's a planet. They're going to be like, you're insane. But everyone who looks through the telescope will see the rings. 92% of people use DMT.
They meet Mother Ayahuasca often.
Yeah, so there's like, and the different drugs will give you different experiences. Yeah. So another really common was something called machine elves, where people will encounter these beings that they describe as machine elves, which is the best words we have to describe these kinds of things. And when we do certain kinds of, meditation, when we do tantric meditation, Vajrayana meditation, right? So there's different kinds of meditations. Some will cultivate endocannabinoid production. Some are like when you do a deity meditation, when you invoke a deity. Then when you meditate and you do like upasana or something like that, Vajrayana meditation, you will invoke a particular deity and you will have a particular kind of encounter. So Ibogaine will give you certain encounters. Ayahuasca will give you certain encounters. DMT will give you certain encounters. Mantra Shastra, Yantra Shastra, Antara or someone else will invoke a particular kind of deity. And you will encounter another worldly being of a particular shape and a particular form. Right? And all these yogis or tantrics studied this stuff. And they're like, okay, if I do this symbol, if I chant this mantra, what will happen? If I chant this mantra, what will happen? And those will invoke certain kinds of energies. So what does that energy mean? I have no doubt, I don't know if this is true, but I have no doubt that each of those deities will have certain physiologic and neuroscience effects because each deity is associated with a certain chakra, right? So some of them, even then the variants are very different. Like Bhairava, if you do invocation of Bhairava, it's a scary business, right? So like they'll give you sometimes what you ask for. Some of them are way kinder. Some of them you'll move way faster. And then we get to things like Asuric influence and things like that as well.
Thank you for watching the clip, दोस्तों. मेरा hope ये है कि आप हर हफ्ते इसी चैनल पर लौट आओ ताकि जितने भी पॉडकास्ट हम अपलोड कर रहे हैं ना उनका सार आपको इस चैनल पर मिले.